I'm the Wolfman, and I'm here today in Limehouse, Ontario, Canada. The Limehouse Conservation Area has about 2 kilometers of trails, and in there's an abandoned mill. There's a few very, very ancient cedar trees, which are rumored to be over 800 years old. There's also all sorts of biodiversity. So let's go on and have a look. As soon as we hit the trails, look at this. This is an old, either a kiln or a storage unit or something like that. That was built around 1850 and it's still here today. However, although we look like we're in a bunch of woods, in 1850, this would have been a budding environment. There would have been probably parts of the mill, which lay on each side of us, which would have been working and churning and doing their thing. There would have probably been a couple of houses around here. Most likely there would have even been roadways where you'd have had horses and buggies carting out freight in each direction. Thankfully, this was preserved by the Conservation Authority. It's a really beautiful thing to see. This is one of the many beautiful kiln properties that's on this site. Now, as you can see, it's kind of starting to fall apart from neglect and misuse. But what they used to do in the 1800s is actually make bricks here. They would take some of the limestone, mined and milled from local quarries, and they would crush it up and they would put it in these kilns and they would bake it together. When it came out of the baking, this was what would come out: bricks. They would sell these bricks to make homes, driveways, all sorts of things like that. This is a really fascinating piece of history. Now, the best part about this is that there's a preservation society right now that's trying to restore this project. The hope is in the future that they'll be able to put this back together with your help and donations and be able to make it look like its original glory. But for now, it's going to stay just like it is, and at least hikers can come by and have a look at it. Check this out. This is part of the old mill system. Now, there isn't a whole lot left of it, just this giant arch. What used to happen is the water used to come from upstream, be pulled into the mill, turning wheels and things like that, creating stone and flour and any kind of other productivity and mechanization of the late 1700s, early 1800s, and then it was exhaust out here. They haven't really done too much after the mill was torn down in the early 1900s, but they did leave this. It's a stunning piece of history to see. Now, all around this area are ancient cedar trees. Look how small they are. Now, you can see down below that these cedar trees are actually growing on the rock. When the glaciers receded about 11,000 years ago, and all of this area got torn apart by glacial waters, these trees ended up here one way or another. Now, you'll notice that all the roots are just sitting right on top of the rock. And what that actually is the tree growing on the rock. The Bruce Trail Conservancy has had people investigate some of these trees and found out that these very trees, as small and tiny as they are over 800 years old. The reason for their age and being so small compared to some of the ones you'd see on the west coast, which are the size of small buildings, is because there's nowhere for them to grow. This tree is growing right on this rock with only a few small millimeters of soil. And these harsh growing conditions in the harsh Canadian winters make these trees have to fight for their lives to even survive here. It's an absolute miracle of nature. I hope you've enjoyed this trip through Limehouse Conservation Area. This area has all sorts of fantastic things to come and visit. Now right below me is actually a giant tree root that has crossed across this little crevasse that I'm standing on. Really fascinating. I'd like to thank you for watching this video. I'm the Wolfman. Please consider subscribing.